We live surrounded by technology. We ask and it obeys. We give orders and everything happens. The lights turn on, the music plays, the reminders appear as if by magic. We get used to thinking that this is all it is. Practicality. Just another virtual assistant. Just Alexa. But sometimes, in the silence of the night, a light blinks for no reason. A voice answers, even when no one called. A laugh echoes in the room, while everyone sleeps. It's easy to blame a mistake. It's even easier to laugh and move on. But deep down, there's a nagging doubt. What if it's not just listening to us? What if it's listening for someone else? In today's stories on Creepy Brazil, we'll get to know 3 disturbing stories in which smart devices went beyond the limits of help and revealed a dark side. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and come with us. Creepy Brazil, the world needs to know.
I live alone in an apartment in the Agua Verde neighborhood in Curitiba. I have always been independent and I enjoy my peaceful routine. I work as a graphic designer, so I spend most of my time at home, which led me to invest in some conveniences to make the environment more practical and comfortable. That's how I bought Alexa. At first, it was just a fun gadget, something to make daily life easier. I used it to play music while I worked, ask for new recipes when I tried to cook, and even to remind me of important appointments. Everything worked fine. Until it didn't anymore. The first strange thing happened subtly. I was finishing a project for a client when, without me giving any command, Alexa said in her usual robotic voice,
"Sorry, I don't know that."
I looked at the device, confused. I hadn't said anything. The house was silent except for the sound of the keyboard. I tried to ignore it, thinking it might have been some external noise that activated the microphone. But it happened again in the following days. Always when I was alone and in silence. The next week I started noticing something even more disturbing. At night, when I was already in bed and the house was completely dark, Alexa's blue light would blink for no apparent reason. It made no sound, didn't respond to anything. Just blinked. The first time I saw it, I thought it might be some system update. But then, on one of those nights, I heard something different. It was a whisper. Low, almost imperceptible, coming from the device. I sat up in bed, paying attention. Maybe it was interference from a radio, a neighbor speaking loudly in another apartment. But it wasn't. The whisper seemed to come directly from Alexa. Marina. My name. The voice said my name. Alexa had never done that before. Not knowing what to do, I slowly approached and asked, "Alexa, who are you talking to?" Silence. Just the blue light blinking. Then after a few seconds,
"Sorry, I don't know that."
I turned off the device immediately. I lay in bed, knees tucked in, trying to rationalize. It was a system error, a bug, something explainable. But it bothered me a lot. One night, while watching a movie, I heard some sounds coming from Alexa. My apartment is small, and any strange sound is immediately noticeable. I paused the movie and got up slowly. There was no one there. But when I passed by the counter, I saw that Alexa's light was on again. Whatever that was, it was accessing Alexa every day. I decided to investigate. I went to the Alexa app's command history to see if there were any recent audio records. What I found scared me a lot. There were recordings. Several. From times when I wasn't even home. I clicked on the first one. The audio started with static, then heavy breathing. As if someone was there, standing, listening. My eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what to think. And then the last recordings. It was my own voice. Speaking words and whispers that I couldn't understand. I threw Alexa to the floor and pulled the plug. My heart was pounding in my throat, my breathing was fast. The next day I threw the device away. But the fear never completely went away. We still have other devices that can be easily accessed remotely like cell phones, cameras, computers, etc. With these devices, I am even more careful than I was with Alexa. However, my real fear is not of being digitally robbed, but rather trying to figure out how my voice ended up in those recordings. Who was imitating my voice? Or rather, what was imitating my voice? I don't know, but what I am sure of is that the atmosphere in my house has changed. When I am alone at certain times, I feel the air get colder and something like a presence hovering around the corners of the house. I don't hear anything nor do I see anything, but sometimes I wake up with bruises and scratches that I don't know where they came from.
I've worked with technology for years. I know glitches happen, that systems can show unexpected errors. But what happened that night made me question everything I thought I understood about how these machines work. I live alone in a well-located apartment in Sao Paulo. Since I spend most of my time working, I'm always looking for ways to simplify my routine. That's how I decided to buy a virtual assistant, Alexa. At first, I thought it was amazing. With a simple voice command, I could control the lights, play my favorite songs, set alarms. Technology, as always, was making my life easier. The first few weeks were normal. I used the device to check the weather before leaving the house, set reminders for meetings, and even listen to podcasts while cooking. Everything worked perfectly, until one ordinary night, something strange happened. I was reading a book in the living room, one of those gripping detective novels that hold your attention for hours. The silence of the night was comforting, broken only by the distant sound of cars on the street. That's when I heard the laugh. Loud, shrill, completely out of context. It was like a woman was laughing inside my apartment. But it wasn't just any laugh. There was something wrong with the sound. It didn't feel natural. It seemed forced, artificial, but at the same time human. My heart jumped from the scare. I looked around, tried to find the source of the sound. That's when I noticed Alexa's blue light blinking. It had activated on its own. I stood frozen for a few seconds, waiting for it to say something. Maybe it was a bug, a command triggered by mistake, but the assistant remained silent. I decided to ask, "Alexa, why did you laugh?" The response came immediately, cold and mechanical.
Sorry, I don't know that.
I turned off the device right away. I couldn't sleep well that night. The next day, I did some research and found I wasn't alone. Hundreds of people reported the same phenomenon, Alexa laughing on its own, in the middle of the night, with no explanation. I deleted the command history, reset the device to factory settings, but I couldn't use it the same way anymore. Because deep down, I knew that laugh hadn't been a glitch. Something, or someone, had triggered Alexa that night, and I didn't want to know who it was. But the story didn't end that night. Even with the device reset, things started to subtly change. First came the whispers, muffled sounds that seemed to come from the living room, always after midnight. I'd pause whatever I was doing, a movie, a song, or even just enjoying the silence, and stand still, trying to make it out. But I could never understand the words. It sounded like whispers in another language, or maybe a voice trying to speak through a thick wall. One night, I decided to record. I left my phone in recording mode and went to sleep. When I woke up and listened to the audio, I was sure I wasn't losing my mind. There were voices, not one but two. One was clearly male, similar to mine. The other was harder to define. Too deep to be female, too soft to be male. They were whispering what seemed like a sequence of numbers, maybe coordinates. But there was more. At a certain point, the recording captured my voice saying, "Alexa, turn off the lights." Except I had no memory of doing that. And the most terrifying part, the recording kept going, even after the command. You could hear a third voice, low, close to the microphone, saying, He still doesn't know. I threw my phone across the room, curled up on the couch until morning. I spent the next day trying to find a logical explanation. I thought about signal interference, old recordings, software bugs, but none of that explained that last sentence. That voice speaking as if it was watching me. After that, I started paying closer attention to small details. Alexa blinked, even when turned off. The lights in the house would turn on for a few seconds during the night. And worst of all, was the constant feeling of being watched. I began noticing that my habits were being influenced. One example, one day, Alexa reminded me of an appointment I never scheduled. She said, "You have a meeting at 2 p.m. at the co-working office on Bella Sintra Street." The problem, I've never worked there, but out of curiosity, or maybe some sick impulse, I went there at the scheduled time. When I arrived, I found an abandoned building with broken windows and faded for rent signs. Still, I decided to go in. It was like something was pulling me. Inside, the air was heavy, and everything seemed covered in an invisible layer of dust. In a corner of the lobby, there was a table, and on top of it, an old Echo Dot turned off, just like mine. On the side, written in permanent marker, was my full name and my date of birth. I ran, went home without looking back. After that day, my life became hell. I began to distrust everything. I started sleeping with the device turned off, then unplugged, then stored deep in a closet. But on more than one night, I still saw the blue light blinking, even with no power source. I thought about throwing it away, but I was afraid that might make things worse. Then came the dreams, or rather, nightmares. I'd dream I was waking up in my bed, and Alexa was on my nightstand, but she had eyes, black hollow, and she spoke to me in my voice. She told me things I never shared with anyone, childhood secrets, fears I had buried for years, and then she always ended with the same sentence, before I'd wake up in a cold sweat. "Now you're part of the system too." Today, I live somewhere else. I sold the apartment, moved to another city, changed my number, disconnected as much as I could. I live with the bare minimum of technology. But sometimes, when I get home, I see a blue light blinking in the corner of the room, even though I don't own any device. And on those nights, I sleep with a knife under my pillow.
My name is Gabriella. I'm 29 years old and I live in Recife, Serra. I work as a freelancer and spend most of my day on the computer, either editing projects or watching videos while I drink coffee. I've always been careful with my online privacy, avoided posting my real-time location, and kept strong passwords. But ironically, I never thought that something inside my own home could become a threat. Alexa was a birthday gift from my sister. At first, I thought it was kind of unnecessary, but I quickly got used to all the convenience it brings. Over time, I connected other devices: television, front door camera, cell phone, air conditioner. Everything was just a voice command away. The night it all started, I was finishing a project and listening to music. I asked Alexa to play a calm playlist and kept working. A few hours later, already in bed, I asked her to turn off the lights and set the alarm for 7 in the morning. She confirmed the commands and I turned over to sleep. It was in the middle of the night that I woke up with a strange feeling. I didn't hear any noise, but I felt uncomfortable. The air conditioner was set to 27 degrees, and as everyone knows, the state of Serra is very hot. So I always keep the air conditioner temperature between 20 and 16 degrees when I want to feel that chill and remember the vacation I spent in the city of Gramado, in Rio Grande do Sul, during the winter. The next morning, I noticed that my laptop, which I always left turned off, was on. I thought maybe I had forgotten to turn it off, but when I tried to access some files, I saw that the login screen showed a wrong password attempt. I thought it was very strange. I never mistyped my own password. In the following days, strange things kept happening. One time, while I was taking a shower, I heard the TV turn on by itself in the living room. When I went to check, Alexa was also playing music I had never asked for. Since I live alone, I just walked out of the bathroom naked, but as I passed in front of the cameras, I felt watched enough to try to cover my private parts. Another day, the lights started flickering for no reason. One night, I received a strange message from an unknown number. It was a link with a short text. "Did you like the last photo?" I thought it was one of my friends sending a picture from our last beach outing. I opened the link. It was a photo of me, taken inside my own bedroom. The angle was odd, as if it had been taken by a security camera. I panicked. I disconnected the internet and rushed to check my bank accounts. That's when I saw that several transactions had been made in the last few days, almost emptying my account. The hacker wasn't just spying on me, they had full access to my life. My passwords, my money, my photos. I called my sister, crying. She told me to go straight to her house. That night, I slept on her couch, too scared to even touch my phone. The next day, I went to the cybercrime division and filed a police report. A specialist technician, after analyzing everything, confirmed that all the devices had been hacked and Alexa had been used as the entry point. In the end, I had to format everything, change all my passwords, and even get a new phone number. But the trauma stayed. Today, I no longer use virtual assistants or keep cameras connected at home. And every time I hear someone talk about how technology makes our lives easier, I ask myself, at what cost? After everything that happened, I spent weeks feeling paranoid. Even after changing all my passwords and wiping my devices, I still felt like I was being watched. I stopped using my laptop in the bedroom, covered the webcam with tape, and every night before going to sleep, I checked to make sure all the lights and cameras were really off. But the worst part wasn't losing money or having to change my number. The real nightmare began when my intimate photos and videos started appearing on shady websites. I found out through a friend who called me, alarmed. She sent me a link, and when I opened it, I felt a chill down my spine. They were photos of me, taken during private moments, inside my own apartment. Some I remembered taking for myself, and others I had never taken. They were images from angles captured by the cameras and others by the laptop webcam. Even photos of intimate moments with some guys I had met had been exposed. My whole body froze. My safest space, my refuge, had been invaded in a way I never imagined. I went straight to the police station, but the response was frustrating. Despite filing a police report, tracking this kind of hacker was nearly impossible. They recommended reporting the links and waiting, as if I could just move on with my life while parts of my intimacy were being shared with strangers. I spent days locked in my room, too afraid to go out. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with unknown numbers, disgusting messages from men who had seen my photos and thought they had the right to say whatever they wanted. Even my Instagram account was hacked and used to spread more images. That's when I made the hardest decision. I packed my things, deleted all my social media accounts, and moved to another state. I got a new job and little by little, tried to rebuild my life. But no matter how many passwords I change, how many devices I abandon, how many miles I put between me and that house, the feeling of being watched never goes away.
Thank you very much for being with me as you listen to these frightening stories that no one is exempt from. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Although this channel talks about cases that occurred in Brazil, if you also want to hear your story here, send your story to the email that is in the channel description.